On this video, I am doing a brief inductive Akkadian grammatical analysis on one of the laws of Hammurabi, and that would be law number 121. And I'm doing a short law. That way I'm able to do more at a given time. My thought in all of this is to do some just basic introductory grammar. We've done more on the epilogue and the prologue, but we're now just looking at some representative laws. And I'm doing short laws. There is something out on the internet that's sort of interesting where people have taken, or some scholars have taken, a short reading of the New Testament Greek and Hebrew text and done like a 10-minute video, or maybe even less, looking at the grammar. So one thing I thought, well, why not try it with Hammurabi, looking at the grammar inductively, and do a short video and try to examine the grammar as we go through it. So that's what this video is about. And we are now looking at law 121. And if we read the law, it goes, Shuma awilum inabita wilim she'am ishpuk ina shanat ana one shekuri ka she'am idi. And then we have idi, let me just look at my note here, na'ash pikim in din. So I am following Borger, B-U-R-G-E-R, Borger, his German study of the Akkadian, and he has done a wonderful job in giving the transliteration. And so I'm using his transliteration of the cuneiform, my own normalization, and then my own phrase by phrase or word by word grammatical analysis. And I hope this helps maybe someone that might have an interest in working in Akkadian grammar. So we began just to translate it. One of the wonderful translations that has been done is in the ancient Near Eastern text by Meek on the Hammurabi's law code. And I'm reading his translation, then I'm going to go and work through the text, work through a normalization and then a grammatical analysis. It reads, if a signor, and we could translate that if a man, an awilum, stored grain in another signor's house, he shall pay 5 ku of grain per kur of grain as the storage charge per year. I would like now to look at a word-by-word analysis of that law. Shuma awilum. Shuma, of course, is translated if. And the laws all begin with Shuma. If this, then this. These are casuistic laws. And so we begin, if a we loom. If a man, with the macron accent over the we here, and is showing a nominative singular, masculine singular in the ending. So if a man in a bit, capital E, a wheeling, in the house of a man. Inna would be in, and it's a preposition, and bit is from bitum. It is a noun in construct with awilim. Notice here, bitum becomes bit in construct, and the E, the large E, is the Sumerian word for house, E. And so in a bit awilum. Notice awilum, im is the genitive singular ending of awilum. So im is the genitive singular. So here we see the nominative and the genitive. And then we also see the accusative back to back. So if in the house of a man, she'am ishpu'uk. Notice she'am means grain. And so if a man grain, I'm reading it very literally here, she'am is from she'um. So if a man grain, notice the ending is the accusative. And here it's interesting to me, you have an illustration of the nominative in the genitive ending in im, and the accusative in And she'am in the Sumerian would have been she, capital S-E. So if a man in the house of a man grain, and then we have the verb. Notice the verb comes at the end of this cluster, and that is the way Akkadian often is, where the verb is at the end of a sort of a complex phrase. So ishpu'u is ishpuk, transliterated or normalized, and so it means if a man in the house of another man grain from she'u, ishpuk is a G preterite, third masculine singular from shapaku, and it means to heap up or to store. And so we have a G preterite, third person masculine singular from shapaku. So if a man in the house of another man grain stored or stored grain, heaped up grain, inna shana'at. Inna is the preposition for shana'at. Shana'at is from shantu, and it means year, and it is for a year, we could translate it. If a man stored grain in the house of another, now we're going to look at his charge for a year, and notice the Hebrew shana is ear, or year, I should say. So for a year, anna means really, it's another preposition. And so if he has done this he's going to pay so much. It's another preposition. And Meek has rendered it, if a signor stored grain in another's house, he shall pay 5 ku. It's like per year. So we could say for or up to 5 ku. And notice the Akkadian reads she kur, one she kur, e 5. And that would be the Sumerian here would be translated 5 ku of grain. 5 ku of grain. And then we have the next phrase, ka she am. Ka she am. And also the Sumerian silla. So ka she la would be, if we were going to translate it into an English translation, we could translate it this way: he shall pay 5 ku of grain for a core of grain. So here we have the accusative ka sha am. So a core of grain. So he shall pay 5 ku of grain for a core of grain. And I noticed a footnote that's helpful in the ancient Near Eastern text by Meeks, which reads that would be 1 2/3%, since there were 300 ku in a core. So that's going to be like, I guess you would say, the interest or what he's going to pay to store it in the uh, storing place or the storage room of another man. And so then the text goes on. Idi, for or per, idi means for or of the wage. Idi is from idum, another genitive, and it means wage. So for or of the wage, we could say, na ashpa ki im. And normalized it would be nashpa kim, for the wage of the storage room. Nashpakim is from nashpakum, and it means storage room. For the wage of the storage room, inna adiin. Inna din, he shall give. And this is a G present, third masculine singular. Notice the doubling of the D in the present here from nadanu, to give. And my mind goes to Hebrew, natan, to give. And so if we were going to translate it then, if a man in the house of another man heaps up grain for a year, then for 5, actually the payment then will be cited for 5 ku of grain per kur of grain. And notice, as we said before, a ku, there's 300 ku in a kur. For a core, a ku for a core of grain, and then going back to my translation, for that much of the price or the wage, and I'm understanding that to be like the interest or the wage of the storage room, the genitive again, he shall give. In din. And Meek gives it a smooth translation, and it would be if a man stored grain in another man's house, he shall pay 5 ku of grain per core of grain as the storage charge per year. And so basically, there's an interest that is paid. And I'm reminded when my wife and when I was pastoring years ago, we served in a church that had a number of farmers, and they would take their grain to where it would be weighed and then stored like a granary. And as I recall, they would be charged so much based upon the weight. And so when we go way back to Hammurabi's law, there's sort of a similar idea that if one is going to put in the storage room of another man, there'll be a wage or a cost that he will give to that person. So I'm going to stop there. One thing about these laws, they're pretty short. And I hope this might help somebody looking at the grammar, the 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 ending, nominative, genitive, and also the uh, the accusative in the and then the different prepositions and the genitive again in the ending, and then the G uh, tense in the doubling of the D and in Dean, and in the G preterite, just the from Shapaku Ishpuk. And so we can see quite a bit of grammar in this one short little law.